Hello, so my name is David Humphrey. So I want to say that I do consider Donald Trump a very bad president. He greatly increased the national debt. He is a very lazy man and often goes on vacation and stuff, and also wants to send all our foreigners over the wall in some sort of border or whatnot. But I should say, however, that the trait of Donald Trump that many consider to be his worst trait is actually one thing I consider to be his best, and that is he views foreign leaders in a greater dimensional way than most Americans, who are rather one-dimensional on the view by basically saying us good, them bad. In my view, most Americans have a very simplistic view of foreigners, and Donald Trump nor his administration does not, and I praise them greatly for that. So I would like to say a letter to you that I would have written Mr. Trump if I am able to. Dear Mr. President, my name is David Humphrey. I am 29 years old, a resident of the state of Minnesota. I currently live in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, and I go to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities every day to pass my time. I should say that although I am a resident of the United States, I do not enjoy living in this country. This is for various reasons. I do not like their love of capitalism, their beliefs that everyone is capable of anything they put their mind to, and the overall belief that a person who does one bad thing in their life is entirely a bad person, no question. These traits are among many others, I am sure. In large part due to my belief in the wrongdoings of Americans, I am of the belief that I should vote for the Democratic Party for office. No, I do not believe they are free from all the bad traits of all Americans that I have previously mentioned. In fact, I believe that they are greatly fond of my beliefs of failure. But I vote for the party anyway, because I believe that the Republican Party has more nationalistic flaws than does the Democratic Party. They are fonder of the good traits of capitalism, they are fonder of Christianity, and also are favorable of the strictness of the American legal system. Their belief in these traits is what makes me favor the Democratic Party in the most. But then, shouldn't I favor voting for Joe Biden if he becomes the candidate for the 2020 election? No, I do not favor voting for him. I would vote for you, President Trump, due to a major reason. Most Americans hate you for your appreciation of the leaders of oppressed foreign nations. For instance, you have talked with and visited Vladimir Putin of Russia and Kim Jong-un of North Korea. While I do note that the country's citizens are oppressed and the leadership of these countries is oppressive, the American people should always remember one thing. The millions of people that live in those nations are citizens of these countries and are one thing. They are human. Yes, the leaders of these countries are far from admirable and are oppressive, but nonetheless, the citizens of these countries made these leaders their leader. Whenever the American media portrays the leaders, I believe it can be simply expressed as us good, them bad. They do not consider how these countries' leadership became oppressive in the first place. The way the media expresses it seems to make its viewer believe that there is some magical, oppressive, evil force that is tragic to exist and powers up the people it contacts. This force is what people believe, although believe in an indirect way, that makes the man the oppressive dictator that he can become. Americans think that we must do everything to eliminate this evil force, which has contacted the few men, like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, it comes into contact with. And to do this, we must use our military or some other aggressive means to eliminate these evil-bound leaders. Unlike the beliefs by the Democratic Party that these men are evil by the forces of nature, and that we must eliminate them without ever connecting with them due to the evil things they would do to our nation were they allowed to talk a word to our country's leaders. Donald Trump is admirable for his humanistic connection to talk with the men the leaders are. Certainly, the leaders might not do anything to improve the nations they are said to be oppressors of. But nonetheless, you, Mr. President, are being more humanistic in your dealings with these men. This is primarily why I support voting for Donald Trump instead of Joe Biden. Joe Biden, in my view, has the view of oppressive leaders like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. Us good, them bad. He, and probably many other Democratic Party candidates, have this simplistic view of the world. It is one that should not be had by any man, in any way, in my view. Biden, and for that matter any other Democratic Party candidate that shares the us good, them bad worldview, are candidates that drive me behind a vote for Trump, Pence, in the 2020 election. A president who at least has the mature worldview that people are people that can and should be contacted by another person who might not share a worldview that is not their own. Yes, perhaps the dictator has guards that would physically eliminate any persons with an opposing view to their own. But there is a chain of people that lead up to the leader, and as this chain is led up the ladder to the expression of a person who can contact the leader directly about a particular world view, then the leader can be expressed and convinced for change. Now wait, that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? A leader could still hold on to their worldview, no matter what someone in the hierarchy of leadership in a tyrannical state, right? But the further up the ladder a trait which the leader is against goes, the more and more people the ladder has on its side, and thus the more and more people the leader has against him or her. Perhaps then the leader has so many of his or her people against him or her that leadership of them becomes impossible, and the leader's oppressive people will no longer listen to the leader. But can't a leader be so oppressive that the people desire for other candidates to listen to can't be done due to the leader's rule? Well, I would say no. After all, we as humans make all our own choices. There is not some magical evil force in this world that makes a leader bad and oppressive, and its citizens weak and unable to act in any way. Leaders are always justified in some way by the allowance of his or her citizens to do the oppressive things they do. Take, for instance, the instance of Nazi Germany. Yes, the existence of Nazi Germany was a dark time for human history. However, I constantly find throughout society the interpretation of Adolf Hitler as the root of all evil. Many humans portray him as a modern-day devil, a powerful menace that was an evil force that killed 11 million world citizens, and that World War II allies put to an end. However, in my view, this view of the happenings of history is quite wrong. Yes, Hitler was a terrible person, and perhaps he could be blamed for the deaths of 11 million people. But only partially. Hitler certainly could not have gone to every European city, drive the Jews personally into the death camps, and kill them by his own means. Others would have certainly had to do what he wanted to do. And it is this doing what he wanted for which the many people of the Germany and other sympathetic parties should be blamed, not simply Hitler. It remains my opinion that the view the Democratic Party and others sympathetic to their world view hold of Trump and his administration is that of a simplistic interpretation of evil. The administration's humanizing of foreign dictators is to be seen as bad, because in the view of the Democrats, us good, them bad. Russia and North Korea, after all, are full of much oppressed people, and their leaders are doing bad things that continues the people's oppression. And in my view, and the view of many others, they are leaders not to be admired, and are doing bad things. But nonetheless, the people they rule over are still justifying their leadership by allowing it to exist. People need to get over the belief that leadership is some magical force that cannot be altered in any way. Its existence is the result of what humans do, and humans that are humans in some way, and can be altered if enough change their views. If a leader remains oppressive and stays in power, there are enough people under the rule of the leader that allow the leader to have his or her rule to exist. If one feels that the people cannot do anything because others prevent them from doing something, well, it should be noted that it is this that continues to justify the leader's existence. Inaction does nothing to change what can or should be changed. Thus, the leader's rule continues to be justified by the people's people due to their inaction. So it should ultimately be said that the view I believe the Democrats, particularly Joe Biden, hold, the view that we are inherently good and they are inherently bad, is ultimately a bad thing and simplistic. For this country, it is the more complex and cooperative rule that the Trump administration holds that makes me support it more than, say, Joe Biden or any other Democratic Party candidate for that matter.